that we can confidently say is that things with COVID-19 change rapidly and sometimes change from one day to the next. So we are doing our best to try to keep up with the communication, but totally recognize that it's been a challenge, and we are missing some groups. So as of today, our offices are completely closed. We closed them to walk-in traffic maybe a week and a half ago. And then I think on Thursday morning, we closed them to staff and said that, we just needed them to go in for emergency or urgent situations. And then on Friday, decided to completely shut them down. So our offices are closed. However, all our staff are teleworking. And so you should be able to continue to have contact with the staff in the offices that you are working in. Leslie, is that Valencia and Sandoval? Yeah, okay, so Kim Chavez-Bowie is the county office manager for Valencia. Melissa Garcia is the county office manager for Sandoval. All the PPWs are working. They should be available by their phones and their email addresses. You can always reach Jennifer Earp if you're having problems, myself or Carla Young if you are unable to reach staff. But we are continuing to provide support and intervention with our biological parents. So sadly, maybe over a week ago, the Supreme Court issued a blanket order ceasing all visitation, suspending all visitation with biological parents and children. And of course, you all know that every single one of these things that we're talking about are in an effort to curb the virus, slow the spread, flatten the curve, protect our staff, protect our children, protect our parents. So everything is in the name of we've got to slow COVID-19 and do not want to expose all the parties. Supreme Court issued that blanket order, however, provided some stipulations, and we worked with them on the stipulations. And so our chief CCA, Rebecca Liggett, has drafted a template that attorneys can complete at the request of the parents, the workers, anybody on the team, to have the courts look at the possibility of reinstating visitation. The criteria that we've looked at or have, I primarily identified is developmental ages, developmental, what's the word? How old the child is and how appropriate video conferences according to their developmental level. So a baby, even though the parents might get to see the baby, and that might be really important, the baby is not able to really engage in a video conference.
May I ask a question?
Uh-huh.
How about sibling visits?
Can I get through this part and then we can talk about sibling visits, because they're not addressed in the Supreme Court order. So the other criteria are cultural and language considerations. If a family was really close to reunification and having visitation is important to achieve that, we want the team to consider that as well. And so again, I think what I would encourage you all to do is get with your caseworker. I know you all have considerable contact with your biological parents. If you feel like video conferencing is in some way impacting them, the team should have that discussion to include the CCA, and then the CCA can file that petition. We have worked with our community providers to help our families that do not have access to technology to get access to technology. Unfortunately, we didn't have community contracts in a couple of the area, in probably about 5 areas. One of them that is an area that you all are serving, which is Sandoval County. But we're working with the other community contractors to ask them to extend their ability to purchase technology for these parents. Of course, we are reimbursing them, but just as an easier way to get that technology to them. Any of you who have worked in state government knows that if we ordered a phone right now for a biological parent, it might get here in about 3 months. So our contractors have a much easier ability to make that happen. So again, sibling visits was not included in the court order. We, though, of course, are really trying to be conscientious of foster parents, ages of foster parents, you know, other exposure. So we're asking, you know, the caseworkers to coordinate sibling visits if appropriate, via video conference as well. And then, you know, if on a case-by-case situation, if a visit, a in-person visit is appropriate and people are able to do that, or we're able to do that, you know, they will conduct those. And it's hard for me in this call to do case-by-case stuff because I don't always know all the details, and so I'll get one side of it, and but I'm happy to take down some case names and ask the staff to reach out and conduct a case staffing so that those kind of conversations can occur. Our staff are doing Zoom and WebEx and, you know, all the other kinds of things that everybody's now doing to communicate. I'm not checking the chat, but I can do that. Okay, no questions. So questions up to this point?
It's frozen.
Hi, this is Kylie Forrest. Do you know what this is going to look like going forward with TPRs for families?
I don't. I mean, Leslie talked a little bit about just like how do we all think this is going to play out? I mean, we don't know. I don't think anybody expected that this kind of thing would ever happen in our lifetimes. You know, our hope is that our families are going to continue to get the necessary services that they can. Lots of agencies are providing face-to-face service. They're also providing services over video and phone. I mean, we really need to know if there's a family out there that is not only being impacted, but regarding visitation, but services because they don't have the technology. That's important information for me to have. You know, the courts are, I know District 2 has really slowed down the hours that they're providing for children's court services. So in Albuquerque, I think there will be an impact on different kinds of hearings, not just termination of parental right hearings, but permanency hearings, you know, adjudication, all those things that have timelines. But they also know that they are as much responsible to meet timelines as the child welfare agency is.
So Anna Marie, that is actually something I was wondering about is, and that's what I was asking before about, I mean, when there's just no ability to get to therapy or to get to groups or to get your drug tests done, when we start hitting now, you know, when we've got 15 out of 22 months, is the department, I mean, have you guys talked about that yet, about how the department's going to approach that when there has been, and we don't know, it could be just 1 month or 2 months or 3 months where it simply wasn't possible for the parent to demonstrate compliance. They might have still, you know, remained sober and done what they can, but they can't document. There's no way to document that progress. So have you guys talked about that at all?
No, because we're just, you know, in the initial steps of what are we doing with our staff, with our parents, with our foster kids. The other thing is that you all know that we're required by the federal government to meet these timeframes. So they have been conducting calls, people asking questions. And so we will also need to be in communication with them, you know, if we want to make any kind of recommendation regarding timeframes and extending those outside of the flat 15 months versus 15 months plus 2 months with COVID. So we will continue, you know, we know that we have, you know, a potential impact on this and have to get there, but I'm not gonna lie to you, we just haven't been able to.
So what is happening right
those
now with
conversations.
drug testing?
Drug testing agencies are able to do drug tests outside of the office. We've asked them to do that, and we know that there are some that are doing that. You know, I personally, and I've talked to staff about this, I don't think that drug testing is necessarily the most effective way to curb people's use. You know, there's lots of studies out there that indicate that it isn't. It's not impactful in any way to their use. It's, you know, something that makes us as child welfare workers kind of feel good and confident about visits. So we've asked our staff to consider those kind of things as they are working with their parents, and you know, for those visits that may occur still in person, that might be a factor. It might not be if, you know, they can't get the drug test. It should not be something that stops visitation if our staff are supervising and can assess the impact that it has on parenting.
I had a question, Anna Marie. Do you guys have a list of the contractors who are helping provide technology to parents during this time to be able to do video visits?
We do. I don't have it at my disposal, but I can get that for you all. I think the only one is Valencia, I think, has a contractor.
Okay.
So I can get that for you.
That would help a lot. Thank you.
The request really does need to go through the PPW, though.
Right.
Okay.
But at least then if we know like which areas have it, we can know to make that request if we have families that need help.
Yeah. Right now we don't, you guys are only doing Sandoval and Valencia, right?
And Bernalillo.
And Bernalillo. Yeah, we don't have it in Bernalillo. We don't have a provider in Bernalillo or Sandoval. We're working on it, but we don't have it.
Okay.
Anne Marie, I was just curious, for internal meetings, like the IPACs, FCMs, 90-day staffing. So are those then still continuing, but they're just being done then by video conferencing or telephone?
Yeah. Video conferencing or telephone, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
So Anna Marie, do you know, so you talked a little bit, and I'll in a little while screen share so that our practitioners can see the form that's the motion for in-person visitation. But so it talks about the developmental needs of the child home visit schedule, child's well-being will be adversely affected. But are you aware of the kinds of cases so far? Like, I know that I have one that's an infant where they've been visiting multiple times a week, and you know, that is like that's going to continue. I mean, the motion has been filed, and we're all quite confident that will continue. Are you aware of any other kinds of circumstances? Has it even come up yet? Are there cases that you already know about, that just to give us an idea about what the department considers appropriate for that?
Yeah, I'm not, but I wouldn't necessarily have all those details. You know, Leslie, I'm happy to check in with the field deputies and see if they've heard anything, and then I can send you an email, but I have not heard of any specific situations.
Okay. But but other than like infants or a trial home visit, what about like, is the thought that like if a child was really developmentally delayed so that they, you know, can't really participate in video conferencing? Yeah.
Yeah, I would think that that would certainly qualify under the developmental criteria.
Okay. One of the arguments that I know was made by somebody about in another case was the idea of the disrupted attachment, that the child having already been removed, right, had that, and then parent was visiting regularly, and then what would that do when you're talking about kids, I mean, especially under 2, so not even infants, but toddlers and younger kids, but even a little bit old, you know, any kind of preschooler really. So do you feel like that would work? I mean, could we use that argument about disrupted attachment and how it might be made worse by then it's like a second disruption to the relationship?
So what I say is that the day that I had to tell staff that we were going to stop visits was probably one of the hardest days that I've had in child welfare. Like it brought me to tears. I was devastated for our parents. So I think that it's going to be up to the courts, you know, to determine and what they think is appropriate. You know, this, although we participated in the decision at a high level, it was really a decision about, you know, not spreading this virus. And we know that there's children and there's parents out there who are just being devastated by this impact. So, you know, I think that we have to just take it case by case and assess the impact to that child, get a team meeting together, and then ask the attorneys on the case to file. And then I think we'll start seeing what kind of decisions the judges are going to make. I mean, I think that our judges care about reunification and that they should be open to it. I would hope that they wouldn't be angry at us for bringing certain cases, you know, to their attention.
Right.
So I think we just have to wait and see how it plays out. It's only been, I think, a week. It
Right.
came down last Friday, but not this one, but Friday before. So, so I think we'll have to see how it plays out. You know, the governor issued an extension, so we know at a minimum we're in this till the end of April. You know, I guess we just all keep our fingers crossed that the spread slows and that we don't go into it much longer and continue to impact the reunification for our children and our parents.
Right. So one of the other criteria in those motions is that the department is taking protective measures, right, to prevent spread. But is the department going to have, I mean, we know about the shortage of everything. Is the department going to be able to provide any kind of, you know, masks, gloves, anything, or are people going to be kind of on their own?
We may be able to provide the blue surgical masks that are considered level 1. They're really not that effective from preventing. I mean, I think the best criteria that we have at our disposal is the screening. So even if there was a court order, they said reinstate visits, and somebody says yes to the screening criteria, we would not have visits, whether that's the child or the parents. If anyone is showing symptoms, has been in contact with somebody who's COVID positive, has traveled, that seems to be less of an issue as the further we get into it. I think screening is going to be important. You know, I'll be in meetings and people will be like, and then we have to ask them to social distance. And I'm like, there is no way you're going to be able to tell a parent that they cannot touch their child. That's ridiculous. And so I think we could, in those situations, we can probably get them gloves and masks. But if no one's saying yes to that criteria, I don't think we need it. I mean, it's more of a protection maybe for our staff, and they're trying to social distance from the parents. But what you all should know is that the biggest opponents to this have been our foster parents. They, from the day we started this, there has been so much pushback. It was, for me, a daily fight with our foster parents to advocate for our parents. And that whole kind of I feel like it's discrimination towards our parents really came out ugly and prevalent with the foster parents. So they will be your challenge when you do get a child back, when you're able to reinstate the visitation, because they don't want it.
Right. What about in those cases, like, I mean, I assume the department's reviewing cases to see if maybe kids could just go ahead and go home. Like if you're halfway through a trial home visit, or I mean, through a calendar, right? Or you've started the calendar, maybe they just go home. I mean.
Yeah, 100%. You know, when we first talked to staff about it, we said, please make sure that, you know, if you have cases that are close to reunification and you can safely return children, then you should work with the courts and the rest of the team to see if you can move that timeline up. So yes, for sure.
For visits that do become court ordered as part of this, are the CCAs still going to be, or not CCAs, CSA is going to be supervising, or is it going to be the PPWs, or how is that going to work going forward?
Yeah, it'll just depend on the resources that those offices have. You know, the CCAs the CSAs, are kind of having a hard time. They're kind of bored. So if they're available, absolutely. If not, it'll be the PPW or some other staff. I mean, we have been fortunate that we have not had any staff come down with COVID. So we think we're doing okay, and we still have staff available to work our cases. And I'm knocking on wood.
Yeah.
We've got 900 staff and protective services alone, so we've been pretty lucky.
Does anybody have any other questions related to this?
I do. So you said that you are in constant communication with the feds on if they're going to move the timelines. Have they given you any sort of timeline as to when they're going to come up with the decision on that?
No, you know, we've asked them lots of questions about waivers and timelines, and they are, I think, working on it and considering it. A lot of these things are in statute, and so it would require a federal statute change, and that's not easy to do. Other questions? Comments? Opportunities to clear up rumors? I'd love to do that.
So, and again, this may be a rumor. So are the offices shut down now until the end of May?
There's no time frame on that. So yeah, that's a rumor. They're shut down until the governor says she thinks it's a good idea for us to resume regular walk-in business.
So that can change with what's happening on a daily basis. We're not like set for the end of May. Gotcha.
We don't have a date. I've never heard May. Other questions? Opportunities to clear up rumors? Leslie, I appreciate you inviting me to do this. Please let us know if you have any questions. Do not hesitate to reach out. I'm happy to respond. I'm happy to get on another call or Zoom meeting. You know, we want to make sure that we're doing a better job of sharing whatever information we have.
Thank you, Anna Maria. We really appreciate it, because it's hard for everybody. Our parents are really struggling. We want to be able to know what's happening and be able to reassure our parents as we're working with them. And like you said, I mean, get rid of any rumors or things that might be going around being said, and to be able to work with the department through this. The last thing we need is to end up at cross purposes.
Right.
We need to be all working to just to get through this, with everybody healthy and and safe. So thank you, really, very, very much. Really appreciate it.
No worries. And then my only ask would be that if you all have families that you know don't have technology, if you can let Caitlin or Leslie know, and then one of you just get that information to me, that'd be great.
We can do that. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you all. Have a good meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so now, does anybody have anything they want to discuss internally now that it is just us related to this?
So I'm going to say that one of my biggest concerns is about the whole idea of not being able to participate in your treatment plan. You know, and for our clients who now they were supposed to be calling in daily for their drug screens, and they're that's the people that are getting tested in at other labs, those they need to find out, and maybe that's one area where we really need to try to help our clients if they're getting tested elsewhere besides the department, to find out what the options are for the labs, so that if they can get tested, that we get them tested. But for most of our parents, it's they are not doing that, and my worry is that it not end up being held against them. And same, my understanding, I don't know what the rest of you've heard, but my understanding is that like AA is shut down. There are no in-person meetings going on, and and the groups for our substance abuse groups, those are all shut down. And that's hard for our parents in terms of having that support. So I'm worried about that, and about like, maybe I don't know what ideas maybe some of you have about how we can help our parents at this point with when they aren't able to get those services right now.
Has anybody?
I've got 3 clients right now that are utilizing online groups for services. So I know that there's some services based in Albuquerque that are doing it all online. And then from what I understand too, I've got a list of places that are providing AA and other meetings online.
Kylie, can you share that with us?
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
My concern is this, and maybe this is me thinking too far in the future, but I've got 2 TPRs slated for this month. And I don't feel like that is fair to try to do a TPR for a parent over the way we're doing this.
I don't think that those, I think it's very likely that those will get continued. And if I were you, I would absolutely talk with the attorneys on those cases about filing motions to continue those, because I think there are huge due process issues with having a parent have to go through a termination of parental rights trial, not being able to be in person, have their witnesses there in person, cross-examine people in person. I think there are huge due process issues with that. It's such a fundamental right. And
I
so
think I think it sets everything up for an appeal too, in the fact that they're not able to communicate with their attorney right next to them or their team to effectively represent them during that.
Having just gone through my first contested adjudication in the first setting, I can tell you it does not work at all.
Yeah.
And they reset it for June, and hopefully by then the restrictions have been lifted, because it doesn't work to do these by video or over the phone. It just doesn't work.
Well, so everybody getting links. Like I've got an adjudication coming up tomorrow, and I've been in contact with the PPW, but nobody's got links. Like, where is everybody getting the information to link into the adjudication?
We got it from the trial court administrative assistant.
Right. The TCAA should be sending that out to everybody.
Okay.
Is it an Albuquerque case, Kylie?
It is.
Okay.
Well, I did receive an email from someone. Sorry, this is Nicoletta. I don't think of my, oh, there's video. Saying that if we have clients that in Albuquerque's, if we have clients and they have an email, so to let the TCAA know and send the email to them, and then they will add them to that. But really, you can also almost add anyone from that calendar setting as well, or you should be. That's what they're saying. I have not been able to figure it out.
Oh, so maybe that's something we need to do, is to try that.
Yeah.
Make sure that that works, that we're able to share that with our clients if they have not gotten it from the TCAA.
Well, the TCA won't know. So it's our job as the respondent's attorney to then email, once we get that, and then we get an email address from our client, and then we're supposed to send that information to the TCAA, or at least that's what the people in Albuquerque have said to me. So.
Right. Huh. Well, but we need to make sure that it'll work. The other thing is having communication while during the hearing, right? So if your client, like I am lucky, right? I can have the video on my computer, video conference on my computer, and then still have access to my phone so that I can text, which is what I did at the one hearing that we had. I had a hearing with Kylie and Quiva and our client, and we were able to, we ended up not really needing it, but it was there. We had a group text going during the hearing. But my concern is when you've got clients, if they're supposed to be participating in the video conference and they only have their phone, that makes it pretty hard to be also then texting. And I agree with you, Caitlin, it raises huge questions about how do you consult with your attorney, you know, during this. So, yeah. I am going to go ahead and share with you a couple of things. These are going to be in our resource library, but I'm going to screen share a couple of things. One is an article that was, it was one of our Family Justice Initiative interdisciplinary sites that they came up with this, and basically what it is, it's information that you can use to argue in favor of in-person visits that's based on the developmental needs of the child or children. So I'm going to share that with you here just so you could take a quick look at it. But then it will be in our resource library. So can you all see that?
No, I don't
No?
see it. Everybody else is nodding yes, so it must be a lag on my internet.
Okay. So yeah, so this is about, because obviously everybody across the whole country is dealing with this issue. So, but it does talk about, you know, video visits, are virtual visits effective? They actually even cite our own Dr. Bruce Perry here, but it's well researched with sites to help practitioners make these arguments to the court about why, you know, about why we need to have, at a minimum, the video visits actually happening, but also when it's just not going to work and we need to be able to have in-person visits for those kids. So if you have a chance to take a look at that, that's helpful. The next thing I'm going to share with you is the template for the motion that the department will file. So again, this will be in our resource library so that you know what it looks like. I will tell you that I had a conversation with Rebecca Liggett, the Chief Children's Court Attorney, who said that even though it's framed as the department's motion, she did not see any reason why a respondent's attorney could not file the motion themselves. It does say, the difficulty is that it does say that the Supreme Court order says that it has to be on the recommendation of the department. So even if it's the respondent's attorney or the guardian ad litem even who's filing the motion, they would still need to note the department's recommendation. But Rebecca also thought that even with that, that she feels like we should still argue that the court has the discretion to order it even if the department doesn't recommend. The other thing that's really important and frustrating about this is that it cannot be done by stipulation. That the way the Supreme Court framed their order, it requires a court hearing, which is really frustrating because given how court hearings are happening now, it's like, when are we going to actually get into court? But certainly, I think, again, you know, requesting an expedited hearing, and even if it's the department that has filed a motion for an order, I mean, I don't think there's anything that would prevent us from, you know, filing a motion to expedite the hearing and have it be done telephonically. I mean, this is like a hearing that I do think it's worth pushing and having it done telephonically, so that we could get visits back in place.
I would agree. Does anybody, I'm curious, does anybody have any cases where they are allowing in-person visits at this time?
So I just have the one, and actually they had kept doing them with the baby, and then they had to stop because of the order, but everybody's in agreement, and we have a hearing day after tomorrow, and so that it should be back on with the baby.
Carrie, were you gonna say something?
Yes, so I have the same case that Leslie was talking about on the guardian ad litem, and I fully support it. And then I have a case in Valencia, similar situation. The other older children, I'm their GAL and youth attorney, and mom has got pregnant after the kids were brought into foster care, and she was doing really well with this baby, and they weren't taking her into custody, and then there were warrants. So I think CYFD is, and she did a really good job with the child. The child's up on vaccines, and you name it, she was doing it. So CYFD is a little warmer, more open to recommending this, and I fully supported it again. So they're actually going to have the permanency planning worker take the child however many times, I think twice, to the mom's home. They've already checked out the home and it's appropriate, and they're going to have the in-home visits there so that it's not impacting the foster parents, even though I know there's still a chance of COVID-19 transference, but we're hoping that everybody stays safe. So I'm hopeful, and I sure have other cases. I would love to see this happen, but haven't quite approached the department on it yet.
Anybody else have any cases?
No, or even where there's discussion or nothing.
I did email Gail about my client, because the child is suspected to have autism. It would probably be good to continue face-to-face, so we'll see how that goes.
Raina, that sounds exactly like the kind of, you can make the developmental argument about the importance of in-person visits, and that, video is not going to be beneficial for the child. So absolutely. I mean,
my only concern is the child's doing well with the televisits, but that's not uncommon for a child that might have autism, because they generally like technologies.
Right. Got it. Okay. Anybody else?
Oh, go ahead.
No,
I was just gonna ask, has anybody had any struggles with getting the foster parents to comply with video visits or phone visits? And kind of, you want to tell us what you've done to navigate that? Anybody?
Well, I haven't started trying to navigate it yet. I represent a youth, and he was having a video visit with the toddler, the baby in the family, and the child had a feeding tube, and another high needs child in the home pulled the feeding tube out during the video visit. And the foster mom had to stop the visit right away to deal with that, and it really upset my client. And now CYFD doesn't want to for him to have video visits until the child is moved to a new home. Anyway, so the judge said it's to the discretion of CYFD. So I don't know if there's anything more I can do on it.
Yeah.
I think, so Sherry, you said that the child in that case is a teenager?
My client is like 15 and a half, yes.
I mean, that seems like there could be an argument made for needing to have in-person visitation, because a 15-year-old can understand that we don't need to be like right on top of each other during a visit.
Right, yeah, I think that he would play with his sibling, but wouldn't, you know, try to hug on her all the time. I think he would be appropriate, but this case is, yeah, CYFD is not even willing to speak about it. So, and then in the other case that I have with Leslie, I got this from the grandfather, who's the relative foster placement. He was saying the child would hear his parents' voice and turn because he expected to see them. But when all he saw was this picture on a camera, on a phone, he wasn't interested. That wasn't his parents, so he lost interest and went back to doing what he was doing. So video visits don't work for really little ones.
Mm-hmm. Does it seem like for most of your cases that the foster parents are supervising that, or do you have any cases where kids are just able to kind of call when they want and there's not supervision associated with that?
No, they're always at a certain time and visit, well, supposed to be supervision by the foster parent, but in this case that didn't happen real well. And in the other one, I think that when they do the in-person, the grandparents don't have to. The parents are doing such a wonderful job that they just come over and start taking care of the baby there. And so that probably won't be supervised. I think the video, you know, like I said, it's just a camera, and of course that wasn't, you know, someone had to show the phone, but it wasn't working.
So, but that was actually, I should have asked Anna Marie, but that was actually an issue because I'm sure others have had the experience where the foster parent does not want the family to have their phone number, right? So how do you do video conferences if they don't want them to have their phone number? And so
I guess you can't make it so they can't see your number when you call for video. Is that the case?
I don't know the
realize that was
technology well enough.
Yeah,
but I guess, I mean, maybe maybe somebody else knows if the foster parent initiates.
So I think if you're using like FaceTime or something associated with your phone number, you can't, but you could download Skype for free onto your phone, or Zoom, or I don't know if Google Duo uses your phone number or not, but I think there's different avenues that you can take to do that, where you set up a user account and not everyone has access to that.
Yeah, like Brandon put in the chats, using Google Voice, having the foster parent set up a Google phone number.
Yeah.
Rena, do you know, can you use video chatting through Google Voice?
I guess I don't know for sure. We could test it out with mine, but I mean, that's what I use for my clients. So it goes to my phone, but they don't have my real phone number. Sometimes I do run into issues where it says like this isn't a real phone number, but maybe we could try it out because I have that WhatsApp since I was lending my phone to that one client.
You can also use Google Duo. Google Duo comes with any Google account, and it's just a online thing. It doesn't have a phone number attached to it.
Okay. Renee shared in the chat that you can also attach your email to your FaceTime and then call from your phone using your email instead of the phone number.
That's good.
And Gabriella shared in the chat that you can use WhatsApp as well.
I think WhatsApp uses your number though, although I think there is a web version, I think. But these are all good. If we get foster parents who are resistant to have these ideas available, you know, to propose for different options, so that they can have that.
Anything else anybody had questions about, comments about?
Hey team, I just wanted to let you guys know, and this might just be me, a kind of a personal thing. When I was online with one of my new clients today, video or not video, but we were over the phone, and I was doing the biopsychosocial. It's difficult for me as a clinician when I'm not face to face with somebody. She hasn't even met me yet face to face. So the biopsychosocial is going to be weak to start off with because I just haven't built that rapport with the client yet. And she didn't even want to do a FaceTime. She would rather do over the phone. So just as long, and I don't know if others are feeling this with their new clients, but it's going to take a little bit to get this populated the way that I know the lawyers are going to want it to be, especially if CYFD gets a hold of some of these biopsychosocials. If their workers are not going to do them, it's not going to have all the information that they want. And it's just because, like I say, for me, it's difficult doing it over the phone. I need to see them. I kind of they need to trust me. And right now, it's so early in the process, and she didn't even really want to do it, but I had tried like 3 times. So if anybody's having those feelings or have tried that, I'm right there with you.
And I think this is a little bit different in how we usually practice and work with clients, right? And I think it's okay if you're not able to do the biopsychosocial at this point in time, because I think it is really awkward for you as the clinician, but also for the client who doesn't know you, like you said, John. And a lot of doing those assessments too is seeing how people react to the questions that you're asking them. And so I think this isn't a period of time where it doesn't need to be done right away if you feel like you're not getting good information from clients.
Or
I'm
maybe do it
curious.
now and then follow up later and fill in. I don't know.
But I'm curious to hear from the other social workers and parent mentors about whether you're finding that our clients are reluctant to do video conference, or are they willing to do it FaceTime or others?
I don't have one single parent that's wanting to do video conference with me right now. Everything has been done over the phone.
Wow.
And a lot of my clients, unfortunately, don't know how to use it, which creates another issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with Kylie. My parents are not willing to do video.
I'm curious, have they given you like a particular reason, or just like Kylie said, they don't know how to do it, so it makes them uncomfortable, or?
Well, with my parents, I think it's just uncomfortable. I'm a little uncomfortable with someone looking in my face, and I'm looking all rough, and so I mean, I don't know if that's the reason, but like, they're not used to video chatting. It's not something that's just easy to do.
Yeah.
I think everybody's trying to juggle right now too. Like for me, it's hard to video conference at sometimes too, because you're juggling 1,000,001 different things, whether you have kids in the house or you don't have kids in the house. It's still a trying time. People don't want to do face-to-face. They want to make things quick, get done what needs to get done, and get on with their day.
So I did a video call with my client. It was recommended initially by Caitlin as far as sending in the confidentiality informed consent. And what I did for her was I mailed it to her via snail mail, and I sent a stamped envelope in it. So I sent it to her, and then once she got it, I had her call me, and then we video conferenced, and then she signed it in the video, and she sent it back to me. But since then, she's been having a really, really hard time. And I just got off the phone with her now. She called during, and she's in crisis. So she's just not wanting to do a whole lot. And I was just really happy that she actually just reached out on the phone. So I'm grateful for that. But I think she is open to the video conferencing. So I'm grateful for that too.
I have one client that's open to the video, and she's been really good about it. And then the other one is the same as yours, Kylie and Quiva, that she just doesn't want anything to do with it and avoids it at all cost. So
I think, Raina, you make a really good point in the chat about it could be scary for parents to think that we're going to record it and show it to somebody. That's a really good point that I hadn't even considered.
Yep, it is.
I've been gaming a long time.
Does anybody else have any comments, questions, anything they want to share with the group?
I was just going to say, I mean, maybe that's something that you can communicate with your client to sort of, I mean, reassure them that that's not something that you would be doing in terms of the recording. The other thing I just wanted to mention, this is more for the attorneys only because I've talked with the social workers more recently. In your contact logs, it would be really helpful. I sent out an email a few weeks ago when all this started, but in your notes section, if you can just document what things have changed because of COVID, it could just simply be this meeting was telephonic or, you know, done via video conferencing, something really short and simple, but it'll be really helpful for us for the program to track these changes. So when our data isn't perhaps looking so good down the road, we can go back and sort of understand why that is. So just wanted to remind you guys of that. So please start doing that in your logs for program cases and also non-program cases.
Has anybody done a pre-adjudicatory mediation so far under these? Can you tell us, how did that go? How was it done and how did it go?
In that case, so my client just barely got a phone again, like Monday. So I drove down and sat with her in my car, which is where we usually meet, and we did it together that way on my phone. We have the interviews coming up on Friday, so I'm probably going to do the same thing, even though she has a phone now. If she wants me to be face-to-face, I will, mostly because I know she already tested negative and I don't have any symptoms. So I'm still going to offer that to her. But it would have been really hard if we hadn't been sitting next to each other, because I had to tell her, like, watch your face, you're on the recording, like, don't say that so loud.
So it was done by video conference?
Yeah. Through Zoom.
And I think that brings up a really good point too, Raina, that we need to make sure that we're prepping our clients for these so that they know that other people can see them and come up with different cues than we would if we were in person with them. For how are we going to know when we're getting escalated or things like that. Whereas normally if a client agrees, I would just like place my hand on their arm and that would be a cue, but you can't do that right now because you're not in the same place. So coming up with strategies around that so that that doesn't become visible to everybody on the call is going to be really important during this time.
I utilize group chat in both my meeting with Leslie and Quiva and my last adjudication to try to get everybody into the group chat where the attorney and the client kind of could talk back and forth. It's the best that I could think to do, but no, to answer your question, Leslie, it was it's impersonal, and I think it's hard for the client. Those are hard meetings, and then to not have support with them, it wasn't great.
Yeah.
But you do what you can do.
Mm-hmm. Any of the attorneys? Have any of the attorneys had a pre-adjudicatory or a pre-perm that was done by video conference yet?
Not by video conference. I did have, no, I did actually, I'm sorry. I've had so many meetings. I did, but it's tough to navigate because there's so many people and there's the level of technology that each person has is so wide ranging. And then oftentimes the people that have the most difficulty are like the CCAs or something. So who have all of them, or supervisors, like none of our equipment has cameras on it, sorry, you know, or something. And actually I found that CYFD seems to have the most problems lately. But you know, some of my clients have been able to call in, and some of them have been able to do video conference. It's kind of split down the middle. I think I've had 1, 2, 3, maybe 5 or 6 either pre-perms or pre-adjudicatory mediations so far. And but I didn't. I mean, they've gone okay. It's really hard to manage the clients. I had in Valencia County, they're still having like perm hearings and stuff. And it's really hard to manage your client because, I mean, what are they going to do? They can't, if they don't agree with something, they'd be shouting it at me or in my ear. And instead they have to just interrupt and just tell everyone what's happening. And I'm like,
Right.
you know, it's so hard to manage the client. And then they can hardly, you know, they're not used to multitasking the way that we are, where we can like be checking an email or, you know, communicating with someone else while we're doing something and listening to something, you know. So usually all they can do is, sometimes they can't hear very well, and so all they're doing is trying to pay attention and follow along this stuff that they can hardly understand when they're there in person, let alone now they have like no cues, no, I'm not there to like help with anything. And so for me to, you know, Judge Smith this morning was like, can you text your client to another person? I was like, probably not without them dropping that call. You know, she's using Google Meets on her phone, and for some, like, it just, yeah, it was I'm like, it's not possible, and it's not the same thing. We have to really, as everyone knows, like, you can't just like ask a question, you know, you have to really be able to explain it. And, you know, I mean, there's just so much to communicating with our clients, not just be like, hey, are you okay with that continuance? They don't know.
Yeah.
They don't know what they're agreeing to. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's, yeah.
This is actually, I have also, I think we were in the same pre-Jude and in the same pre-perm, Nick, but I would agree, I have the same concerns. It's just not effective. It's not really getting anything accomplished. I feel for the most part, I feel like most of the meetings I've had have just not been as substantial, and I feel like they're longer than normal because people are wasting more time, which does not make up for the inefficiency of the meeting. Like hanging around and talking longer about the items on the treatment plan or whatever does not make up for the efficiency of the meeting. It's just a waste of time. And it's really, I had a 2-hour-long pre-adjudication the other day. And it just is not, like, I'm really worried about the ineffectiveness of all of this. And I know the court's, you know, doing everything that they possibly can, but I think that it's not successful. And I'm worried about clients. I feel like the formality of the courtroom is really lost in these things. And so clients feel less formal, right? They speak out of turn and speak up where they wouldn't normally if we were all sitting in a courtroom. And even when they don't need to, right? They could, like this morning in that hearing, that client could have texted her lawyer, right? Just like the judge had suggested. But I feel like the clients are just more inclined to speak now because the formality is gone. And that's concerning to me.
Well, so we are hitting 1 o'clock, and it's okay to continue, but Jen, are you able to share the other link that I had there in the reminders, the agenda? Are you able to share that link in the chat? I just want, my point in that is that, again, you know, we're not the only ones dealing with this. It's happening all over the country. And so I just want to encourage everybody to use the resources that are out there. So it's now posted. It's the familyjustice.org, and they have a bunch of really good information there about all of this stuff that we're talking about, keeping your clients engaged and dealing with the legal, you know, the due process issues, but also just the practical issues. So I just encourage everybody to take advantage of that if you can. So that's all for me.
Remind everybody to, in case people have to leave right now, that please fill out the post-session feedback form so that we can use it for our grant. Does anybody else have any last thoughts, comments, questions?
Just to say, I wish I could have you social workers, FAP workers on every case. I know, but I live for that day.
Someday again, maybe, hopefully, that'll be the case. Okay, well, I just want to thank everybody for being here today. I want to let everybody know that our next issue processing will be on May 5th, and it will be relative foster placements. So if that is all, thank you everybody for attending, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you,
Bye.
Bye.
John.
We like the dog, John.